Hello, I'm Renee Baribeau, and this is the Shaman's Cave. And today we're going to talk about commercializing shamanism. And for me, that means like, how do you go from, you need a business and you want to promote yourself as a shaman, but how do you stay in integrity without moving so far into the sales pitch that you maintain your good work?
Yeah, and I'm Sandra Ingerman, and welcome to the Shaman's Cave. And I hope that you're subscribing on our YouTube channel. Um, I think for me, some of the issue that comes up when we talk about shamanism is when do we oftentimes cross an ethical line because we're trying to we're trying to improve our business on a particular level, or we're trying to get ourselves out there more for whatever reasons, good reasons. A lot of us just want to be in service, but sometimes we come up with projects that sound like they're going to be very popular, and they are, but are we moving into manipulation? Are we moving into trying to force changes that's not what nature wants, and that's not what the time is for? So it's a tricky issue. It's a really tricky issue of, we want to get ourselves out there, but not cross an ethical line.
That makes so much sense. Recently on a wind walk, I was having one of my, back and forth with the wind about like, you know, I worked for 7 years to birth this book and to get it out, and then it got to Hay House, and the clan is growing organically, but I want the clan to grow exponentially. And the wind just basically, they laugh at me when I get onto these tirades and said, Renee, I get that, Renee, you know, if we had been silent for 12,000 plus years, why do you think that just because you opened the cave and let us out, that, the whole world was going to say, oh yes, this is such a great idea, let's all change now? Like, it might take another 200, 300, 400 years before people are really working in full cooperation with the wind. And thank you very much for moving the rock.
Yeah, on the other side of that, Medicine for the Earth is my deepest book. Um, it's or my most esoteric, or um, I was really in the energy field of Egypt, because I wrote the book between two Egypt trips. And it's actually done okay. It's just nobody really knows about the book anymore. And Isis said to me, she said, you gave up on that book.
Hmm.
And I was so angry with her when she said that. I was doing interviews every day. It was back, that book came out in 2000. There was no Zoom at the time. It was phone interviews. I was on radio interviews every day talking about Medicine for the Earth. How could you say I gave up on that book? But I'm still trying to figure out that message, because I think that there was something deeper in it, um, that I don't think she was referring to sales. I don't think Isis is concerned about sales. I think there was something energetic that I'm still working on, which is part of the process is, when we look at marketing our work, there's also a level where we're tapping into a level of creative spirituality inside of ourselves that wakes us up to other issues. And so, we have this whole hologram of things that we have to look at when we start to put ourselves out there.
Absolutely. I was with a friend a couple weeks ago, and I told you about that movie I had, the Who Stole the Wind, and I was happened to be with this movie producer, and I was there like, I didn't realize, but Who Stole the Wind was just a prophetic dream about 2020. I said, but I could go into, 20, 40. And she's there like, oh, no one wants that right now, Renee. And she goes, are you done with this wind thing? And I'm there like, no, I'm not done with the wind thing. And it's like, so my friend the other day says, well, you need to write the next book. And I'm there like, I said, who can get themselves all excited about writing the next book when this last one cost a fortune that I just finished paying off now, and it's selling, and it does all right on Amazon, like you said. But again, it's like, I don't want to give up, and I want to keep going. Except I believe it's really hardest to write the second book than the first book, because the first book you really don't know, and then the second book it's like you're really in there for the right reasons, because you just have to get this information out. But something in me froze, because it didn't get the grand, surprise. I wanted the prize you get at the bottom of the Cracker Jacks, and it just didn't happen that way. And it's a slow process.
Yeah, my books were birthed very differently. It's writing for me is where my bipolar part of Sandra comes out. I've never been given that diagnosis. I'm self-diagnosed. But every one of my books, it was an explosion inside of me. There wasn't, ooh, I think I want to write a book, or there wasn't, oh, I got to force myself to write a book. It was, oh my God, there's a book coming, and if I don't sit at my computer, I'm actually going to explode. I would start shaking. That's how much energy would be moving through me, and I'd have to get to my computer, and every one of my books was like that. None of them were really planned, and some of them were like Medicine for the Earth. It took me over 2 years to find a publisher. Nobody wanted it. They said that they said that I was before my time with this book, and they said this time Sandra went too far. and so I couldn't find a publisher. But all my books were written without having publishers, all of them, and the only one I had an easy time getting a publisher for was Soul Retrieval. That was it. And so, that's part of the work that we lose to track back to where we are in marketing, that spiritual excitement. When you pick up a drum, to do some healing work, or to pick up a drum or a rattle or a wind whistle to do some teaching, or to sit at your computer to write a book, that spiritual excitement, your crown chakras open, you're one with the universe. You lose that when you're just thinking about, how am I going to sell the book? How could you not, when everything becomes money, everything becomes marketing? How do you keep that creative impulse alive? It changes.
It's such a great question, because, even, you start, especially so many people out there, they have a lot of information and they want to share it. And, I think we get spoiled, like places like they see people like the Shift Network or Sandra, with your 2,000 people. And what we forget, or, I don't forget, but sometimes that you've been doing this for 40 years. It's like when I opened my restaurant and people say it takes 5 years for, a restaurant to be profitable. Well, we're like a society where I want it now.
Right.
The idea, and this is, maybe what Isis was talking about, is you gave up on this. It's like, so like 5 years, by 5 years, I was exhausted. I mean, I lost my father, my stepfather, all of these other extraneous things. And it's like, how do you hold on to that dream when life happens? And so there's so much commercialization out there because we're seeing, oh, well, this one just says, oh, you can get $100,000. It's like, blah. I mean, really, it's just like, it doesn't work that way, or it hasn't worked that way in my experience per se. I find myself busying myself with other activities while my clan grows.
Right.
And this is naturally growing, and yet I'm doing other things, and this happens too. And you stay on the good in the code of the good red road, I suppose. And that I am working on the next book. And I'm hopeful, like Sandra says, that I'll get up to Whidbey and I'll have this massive download, because I tend to write better up there looking at the passage, because I've been working it out and I know where it's going. And it's in me to write that next book. It's a calling.
It's a calling. Yeah. And that's what we want to look at when we're talking about these kinds of issues. Is I find that if you do your calling, you will become successful, but it takes persistence. And I train teachers, and one of the lessons that I train my teachers is persistence. Nobody started out, my original teacher was Michael Harner, and everybody thinks of the Foundation for Shamanic Studies as this gigantic organization. He couldn't get people in his workshops his first few years. He had 9 people in his workshops, if he could get that. And when I started out for years, when I was teaching in Chicago and they told me I had 9 people, I thought I was going to have a heart attack. I couldn't believe that I pulled in 9 people. I wasn't teaching because of money. I was teaching because I was excited about shamanism. And when you're that excited about something, when it's really coming from your soul and your soul and spirit work in harmony with you to get your work out. And so I tell people, and my teachers, I can't tell you how many of my teachers have shared the story of listening to my advice, which is rare for people to listen to my advice. That I told people, if you cancel a workshop, if you have one registrant, that message goes out to the universe that you canceled, and you're going to have a hard time filling. If you do a workshop for one person, the next workshop you get 3, and you don't cancel that, and then the next workshop you get 6. And that's how all of us started out. That's how all of us started out. And all my teachers say that's exactly what happened. And the teachers who canceled because they didn't want to work one-on-one, which is fine, that's a personal choice, they said that they were never able to get a workshop going after that. So there's something about saying to the universe, I am going to follow my passion and my soul's calling. And it's not about marketing myself. It's about putting out that this is my soul's passion, and starting, if it's only one person, starting with that one person and watching. I mean, I've watched how my work has grown to a point that I'm confused by it at this point. And but trust me, I didn't start out like that. That was definitely not how I started out. And a bag of carrots a week was the most I could afford for many years. And life changes if you're persistent and you follow your passion. So you have to weigh the pros and cons. Or are you going to start a project only thinking about how to market it? Or are you going to just do the project with every ounce of excitement and see how the universe dances with you to manifest that excitement in the world.
That reminds me, the first time I ever did a teleclass, it was the vision board class, and one person signed up. And I did it anyway. And it's the most shared page on my entire website. It's been shared like 50,000 times or something like that. But if I had said no, and she's still a student today. I mean, or she's, she's one of my, teaching assistants today. And the same thing happened when I was going to Omega. I thought, oh, I got this Hay House book. I'm going to Omega. And I had 3 people. And it was like, and they're there, do you want to cancel? And I'm there like, no. And we had like a really powerful weekend. And, one of the students is, my teaching assistant now. Because first you have to get students, and then you have to get people who can teach your work. And if you stop at the people who come, then you never get to the people who are going to help, share the work further. So I've learned that, and I usually I'm not as gracious as you. I usually pout for a minute, and then I'm there like, and then I go, well, I'm going to give these 3 or 4 people the best workshop they've ever had in their life. Mm-hmm. And when you're in it, I don't think you know the difference between 1 or 100. No. When you're in the work doing it, it's like cooking a perfectly orchestrated dinner. So I'm with you on that. And it gets more exciting too, the more you build and know, okay, I'm at least going to have 10 people this time. And then
I actually think the wave of the future, this is my personal prophecy that I've been putting out, is that with shamanism, I think we're going to see really small groups, real small communities doing really, really deep work together. And I think that was how it was always meant to be. And I think that's what we're cycling back to. So.
Well, then I might as well just go write that next book and
and try to get the best advance you can get now.
Right, exactly. Still paying off that last advance. But I will have to say I was really grateful for Patty Gift at Hay House for having the vision to know that this work was going to be something that was going to just be birthed, and it was going to live for a long time in the world. And when I have those moments, I'm there like, wow, I couldn't have even predicted that. So I'm thankful for the people who help us along the way too.
Yeah, and we have that in common. Patty Gift was, after 2 years of nobody picking up my book, Patty Gift was working for Random House, and she picked up Medicine for the Earth that I was just talking about.
That's so interesting. She's got that foresight, that vision, and even, for birthing things into the world that might be way ahead of their time. So if you're one of those people with something way ahead of your time, what we're saying is that stick to it.
Be persistent, really be persistent. And what goes along with that, because we're just going to plant a seed here because we don't have time for much more, but always be looking at your ethics. Always be looking at your ethics. If your soul and your spirit are guiding you, you know that they're calling you to your highest purpose. But your ego can filter in, and your ego can start to say, ooh, if I start to try to bring people in by saying we can manipulate, or we can do power over, or we can do, and people are looking for ways to engage with how we use shamanism as a spiritual aspirin. There's a lot of us who would love that, and there are people who look for that. And so we have to keep following our passion and keep watching our ego when our ego wants to come in and start to push us over an ethical line into any form of manipulation. If you're manipulating, you're no longer following the path of your soul or spirit.
Absolutely. And I think that's what both you and I offer the world, is that we give people tools to navigate those rough waters, to navigate that doldrums, when there's no movement, because we can't promise outcomes. And I certainly never promise outcomes. And one of the things that I love most about the Wind Clan students who really are with it is they understand, like one of them had to navigate their daughter having a serious illness and dying into themselves and those types of things. And shamanism offers you tools for, harmonizing your family and your community by you showing up better, by you showing up as the best you possible. And that's the best we can hope for, at least in my estimation.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I think we got a little bit off the commercialization. I think we got more into our ethics around how we work.
Yeah, but I think that that says a lot about the commercialization because, as I said, if you're just looking at how to create a business, it's going to be, even if you're successful, you got the manifestor gene in you. Even if you're successful, how deep are you going to be able to take people? Your whole reason for doing this was just money based. So where's the spiritual aspect of that? Where if you're going, this would really, this is my destiny. This is my soul's calling. Then all of that, the universe conspires with you to make you successful. And then you have a completely different energy field for yourself and to bring your students into. So it's just a question to ponder in a time when people need work and start to look at ways of how can I make a better living. But especially when you're doing spiritual work, there are karmic consequences to only focusing on the financial aspect to it. And so think about these things. And if you journey about these things, that's why the spirits are such a tool for us in shamanism, because they'll say to you, you're not doing this for the right reasons and you're crossing an ethical line. They'll let you know. So I think I do believe we actually covered the commercial aspect.
So shine on, everybody, and make sure you go over to shamanstv.com, sign up for our mailing list, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and come over to the Shaman's Cave, and why don't we have a conversation about this? What struggles you've had, what you're trying to bring into the world, and what your questions around it. And I'll be happy. I'm quite a good businesswoman, so I've always, most of my marketing has been for other people in my life. So, come over, share with us, talk to us, and we're here for you. And we'll see you next week in the Shaman's Cave.
Blessings, everyone.